So I'm sitting in this leather chair, and I firmly believe that God gives his sweatiest lives to his strongest soldiers. So I'm uncomfortable because I'm sticking to it, and it's the middle of August, and I don't believe in wearing pants before Labor Day, so my thighs aren't getting any relief. And throughout all of this, all I can really think about is when I was 16 years old at my junior year, Meet the Teacher night. I walk in with my dad, who's like not the most eager to be there, but my high school was actually on the campus of a university, and my dad worked right upstairs. He quite literally had no excuse. Additionally, you really can't miss my dad. I look just like him. He's just bald and has a goatee. Now, we're starting our rounds, and they're hitting my dad with the common pleasantries. Oh, he's great, Mr. Salinas. He just talks a lot. He'd be valedictorian if he tried. Oh, he's a delight, sir. He's got all the best gossip. Now, as we're finishing up our rounds, and my dad's doing his best not to let it be known who I got this not able to shut up gene from, we run into my guidance counselor in all of her tender love and care. This must be your father, Aaron. His grades are fine, Mr. Salinas, but I do want to mention he smiles an awful lot. I think something might be off. I would recommend therapy as soon as possible. Now, my pops has only been stunned silent twice up until this point in my life. When the Pope died, and when I was 7 years old, and I asked him why Batman wasn't helping anybody on September 11th, 2001. I recognize my privilege by saying that. Now, at the time, I just thought it was a lame high school leader having lame high school leader thoughts. But looking back, that's really messed up to say in the hallways of a high school, dude. Like, especially my high school, people liked me. I was class clown, class president, from the gangbangers to the cheerleaders. They all liked me. For the first time in my high school's history, I caused a 3-way tie for homecoming king. As a theater kid. In Texas, thank you. Going up against 2 football players. Those guys were pissed, but they still invited me to the after parties. I skipped and I did cartwheels in the hallways. I made my principal and my teachers laugh. I gave tours to the new kids at school. Aren't I supposed to smile? Yeah. But I don't say anything. Because I'm 16 in South Texas, and I've never thought about killing myself or somebody else. Obviously, I don't need therapy. And my dad looks at me, scrunches up his face in the back of Eric, and says, "This one, my boy." She nods her head. He's a kid. He's supposed to smile. Do you want him to be miserable or just... And then he stops. You know what? It's fine. Thank you for your concern. Then we left. And we never talked about it again. And as that memory fades, I find myself back here in this leather chair. And a person walks in, and we don't make eye contact because, well, this is a therapist's office. And even though we're both obviously here, it still feels like a stigma's present. My stomach starts to hurt because I know that this means I'm next. And I feel like I'm admitting that I failed if I go through with this. And I start thinking, maybe I can just follow this guy out and act like I thought this was a library or something, but it's too late. I'm met by this kind lady with kind eyes and even more kind voice. Come on back, Aaron. Happy to have you. Oh, because you think I'm broken and you want to try and fix me? Was the first thought I had in my head, but I didn't say that shit because I knew she was going to think I was crazy. So I just stood up and I shook her hand and followed her to her office. And as we're walking back there, I keep telling myself, if Tony Soprano could see a therapist, so can you. And we sit down and we have the audacity to have a delightful conversation. I tell her about myself and my family, and by this point she knows about my grandparents and how I wanted to be a fire truck whenever I was 6. I find out that her kids think that Play-Doh is the coolest thing ever, and she lets me know that she found divorce to be the best thing for her and her ex-husband, and now they are the healthiest they've ever been in each other's lives. I find out that we both love Prince, and I give her a pickled onion recipe that's going to go great with her new boyfriend's chimichurri. Then There's a lull in the conversation.
Yeah, that is.
And she says, "So, what brings you in today?" And I take a moment and I say, "Ever since getting older, I have found it more and more difficult to be happy." And I proceed to cry the longest and quite frankly most expensive cry I have ever cried. I've never had the opportunity to say it. In immigrant families, mental health is a privilege. It is not a right. I mean, you ask for help when it's only absolutely necessary. I mean, I walked around with a broken foot for 6 months. Did you really think I knew to ask for help just because my girlfriend at the time decided to cheat on me with my best friend in college because she fell for the way he laughed? No, we broke up and I changed the way I laughed. Problem solution. Now, after about 10 minutes of sobbing, I caught my breath. I didn't really have the nerve to look at her, mostly because I really wasn't sure if it was out of embarrassment or confusion, because I really wasn't sure if this is how all therapy went. But after a few moments, I just uttered the words, "Robin Williams," and proceeded to start crying all over again. I got no shame in admitting that Robin Williams was one of my deciding factors with seeking therapy. Through him, I learned about poetry and wonder at any age, and it's what's on the inside that counts. I also learned that girls fart because of him. It was a complete mystery up until I saw Good Hunting. But when Robin decided to leave this earth, I learned that we all go through things. Things that might be a little bit bigger than we can handle. And maybe, just maybe, this mask I had developed after all these years might be doing more harm than good. And at nobody's fault, I might not have the tools to help me manage some of these emotions. But I did have the opportunity to try and obtain some of these tools. So after a quick Google search and learning you don't actually need a prescription to see a therapist, I find myself here, sitting in front of this nice person who I've only really known for about 30 minutes and sobbing until things physically hurt. I didn't know what else to do. I did all that I could, said what I would, and just hoped that she spoke the language of broken man-child. After a moment, she patted my knee and said, "You've been holding on to that for a little bit, huh?" I giggled and cried a little bit more. After a little bit, I wiped my eyes, looked up at her, and was delighted to see that I was greeted with nothing but warmth and comfort. "I hate to be the one to tell you this," she said, "but there's no happiness switch inside of you I can just turn on. But what I can do is I can show you how to hold on to some of those happy moments. Have them stick with you for just a little bit longer. But I do want to let you know what you were experiencing is something completely human. And for whatever reason, those last few words really lifted a weight off of my shoulders. Experiencing something completely human. I laugh a lot. I smile what some high school guidance counselors would consider to be too much. I hug often, and I get sad a noticeable amount. But what I learned in my first therapy session is that's fine. That's good. Feel those things and feel other emotions too. A guy cuts me off in traffic and I get mad. The person in front of me in the line gets the last turkey sandwich and I get jealous. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, so I'm disappointed. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I get to feel those things and live in this life that I've been given. Through therapy, I've learned you got to put in some groundwork to find some of those happy spots. And it's hard, it's scary, and at the risk of sounding cliche, I wake up every morning and I look at myself in the mirror and say, "You're worth it. Just keep doing this." Doesn't matter if you're drowning in a babbling brook or an ocean. Sometimes you need a little bit of help. Just remember, there is no switch. There is no cure. Because I'm not broken and I don't need to be fixed. Thank you.